Good morning, everyone. This is Nikachu Merfolk Master, and it appears that my microphone stand just broke off from the wherever it was sitting from. Give me a second. While do I fix this, or should I just hold on to the microphone the entire time? Well, that would be a bit awkward. So, but either way, welcome to Coffee and MTG, the morning talk show. I'm Nikachu, the Merfolk Master and streamer. Streamer here with some streamer difficulties. Nikachu and crew for Morning Magic check in, and I need my own crew. Okay, hold on. How do I do this? I gotta put this down. This is very awkward starts to the morning. Why does this have to happen right before I actually start the show? Even more awkward. Okay, where were you? You were something like over here. Why did you even move? Okay, we're back. Go back in your hole. Okay. Down. What a disaster of a morning. All right. Looks good. Good morning, Satamana. Good morning, Reality 5. Fantastic. I feel like this thing moved a little bit. That's okay. It's all good. I'm going to make do. Don't worry. Everything is good. Everything's under control. All right. So we are, what day is it today? Day 113. Day 113 of Coffee and MTG, the morning talk show where you got questions on Magic. Let's discuss Magic. Let's just get into it. What is happening up there? My microphone stand fell apart, or sort of fell off this bookcase that it was attached to. A very awkward setup over here. And I don't know. I was trying to pull the microphone down to my level, and then all of a sudden the whole stand fell apart. Good morning, Stay Slapped. All right, who wants to start the conversation? What's going on? I feel like there isn't any new news lately. There isn't any like new buzz in the either MTG or modern scene. Basically, everyone that the only hot thing right now I see circulating on Twitter is that the Walking Dead cards, all of them are being, or maybe not all of them. I can't remember anyone's name. They are being featured in a humans deck that did go 5-0. We did talk about that, and this news headline is circulating even more and more. So maybe other people are going to try to replicate this result, and then we can see if this humans deck will stand the test of time. Good morning, Ancorian Hero. Good morning, Hot Chocolate. Rambo announced for Mortal Kombat 11. Wait, wrong stream. Oh, okay. What is that true? Are they only at 11? I feel like they should be like way higher than that. I don't think my poor little heart could take any more news. How do you come up with deck building ideas? I personally am not really, I can leave this question up. I personally am not really a deck builder. I'm more of a deck tuner. So I see a list and I'm like, you know what? This list looks pretty good, but I think I'm going to adjust it by 6 cards to make it even better than it was before. I would say that's more to my core. I generally do not build decks from scratch. I very rarely do that. So, whoops, that's a wrong question. How do you come up with deck building ideas? So I'm not a brewer, I guess. I would say. If I do have, but if you want to talk about like new ideas, for a particular deck, I try to reverse engineer the problem. Like we look at Death Shadow these days, and I'm losing to Death Shadow. Okay, how do I beat Death Shadow? Harbinger of the Tides. I mean, that's the big tempo swing that I used to have in my Merfolk deck that I'm not playing at all today. So I sort of like, what is the answer to that particular problem? Okay, let's bring them in. But that's all I've got. Aside from that, I'm not a person who builds decks from scratch. Good morning here for the hottest takes. Fish Fry Style also stream is in podcast. Thank you very much. I appreciate people reminding me, especially since in the beginning I don't move the category. Rambo is in Mortal Kombat, so like everyone's in that crossover phase. They're like, "Hey, look, it's working for Smash Brothers. They have Sonic the Hedgehog and so many other characters from intellectual properties that have nothing to do with Nintendo. Let's bring them all in." And so I don't know, it's just like the hottest thing in marketing right now. Good morning, Payne Seraph. Well, to no one's surprise, Omnath is running standard. Feels like it happened less than a year ago. Oh wait, yeah. So like Omnath is still taking over standard. They'll just probably let it play out. I have a feeling that there's not going to be any bans. I could be wrong, but they'll probably just let it play out like the degenerateness that it is. Hello, Thomas? Or you're ruining. What's better, Arkham's Astrolabe or Deathrite Shaman? What's better? Probably Deathrite Shaman, because more decks can play Deathrite Shaman. If you run black, if you run green, you can run Deathrite Shaman. So that makes an enormous combination of colors that qualify here. Like maybe even Death Shadow would play Deathrite Shaman. I don't know. If Deathrite Shaman was unbanned, because like Astrolabe was definitely played in a lot of decks, but Deathrite Shaman would be played in everything. It probably... No, you know what? I bet humans cannot play Deathrite Shaman because they don't have a fetchless mana base. So maybe only humans would be the deck that does not utilize Deathrite Shaman. And on top of that, it's not a human. Or is it? No, it's a something shaman. Actually, maybe it is a human. I don't remember what it is. Oh, wait, no, it's an elf? It's an elf shaman. Okay, forget it. Not in humans, but like every other deck would play it. The Dogfish, MTG. Good morning, Fish Fam Nikachu. How are you feeling about Chalice in the current meta? Seems good versus Rakdos, but weaker against the field than it has been over the last few months. I am actually still super positive on... Okay, I'll give you this. If you're running Simic, and you're all in on Cavern of Souls, you have a lot of Mutavaults, you don't have a lot of blue mana available, I'm even more up on Chalice of the Void in that sort of build. In Mono Blue, where you have a lot more blue sources to run stuff like Deprive or Hardcast Force of Negation, or just blue spells in general, you could opt to play with less Chalice of the Voids, but I'm still pretty high on Chalice of the Void right now. Chalice actually has two good matchups. So, it hits Rakdos Shadow. It still hits the Prowess decks, which still exist between Mono Red. Is it? I don't love it. I don't like it versus Rakdos necessarily, but you could bring it in there if you have nothing else. Chalice is also incredibly good against Amulet right now. They have not that many answers to a Chalice on 0. So if you play Chalice on 0, that cuts off a lot of their paths to finding a Primeval Titan. So no more... you can't play Summoner's Pact, and you can't play Teleria West to get the Summoner's Pact. What else? There's like Ad Nauseam. Not big in the meta right now, but still like it's a little something. And playing a Chalice on 0 or 1 can be very devastating to that deck. Because like especially when you're up against Ad Nauseam, they can usually beat you with like 2 counter spells. They combo and have 2 counter spells. But if you've got a Chalice on 1, preventing them from ever even playing Angel's Grace or playing the cantrips to find the counter spells to back up their combo, it's just not going to happen. So Chalice on 1 actually is under, or even Chalice on 0 sometimes, which kills off all the Pact of Negations and also deals with the Lotus Blooms can be devastating there. So I'm still pretty high on Chalice of the Void. It's going to sit in my sideboard for quite a while. I still bring it into really good effect against a lot of archetypes. Fighting games have been doing it for years, haven't they? Yes. Just looking at Smash Brothers, they absolutely have. Straying away from the Walking Dead debacle, what is between Eldrazi Winter, Hogak Summer, and Oko Spring the worst for Modern, the best for Merfolk, and the most hilarious time? If there were any disastrous times worse for Modern, add them, please. Probably... Okay, so in the worst debacle was probably Oko. Sorry, not Oko. Sorry, Hogak. So worst I think was Hogak into Eldrazi into Oko, and actually Oko is debatable if that was even bad. It was just that a lot of decks were playing Oko, but there was a lot of archetypes around. But let's start with Hogak. The Hogak era was one of very few times where the metagame became like 3 decks. So like at the time of Hogak, there was like Hogak and then maybe some Dredge versions that were playing Hogak, but then the other archetypes were like Mono Red Prowess and Mono Red and Izzet Prowess, and then there was maybe one other archetype that's escaping me right now. Eldrazi was like pretty well positioned there, but for the most part, it like just crushed the metagame. The metagame turned to nothing, and it was like a Hogak. It was just Hogak world for the entire time. I would say Merfolk did well in that metagame. Merfolk did well. I did very well. My win percentage was very high. I was winning a lot of ticks, and I murdered side events. Unfortunately, I didn't make day 2 of the GP that I played in, but I still think Merfolk performed very well. Next was Eldrazi Winter. That was an era where, like, maybe this one was the worst, because this also got emergency banned. I mean, they both got emergency banned. To some extent. Eldrazi was pretty bad. The Eldrazi Winter was pretty bad. There were your flavor of Eldrazi or ban to Eldrazi. You know, now that I'm thinking of it, maybe Eldrazi was the worst. Maybe Eldrazi was worse than Oko. So like I don't know what other was anyone around that time? What other archetype even existed during the Eldrazi Winter? You know, now that I'm just talking about it, I don't think there was anything else. It was just you're either playing Eldrazi or not. And a lot of people said that a lot of people think that Merfolk had a good matchup against Eldrazi. That's not true. We had a better matchup against Eldrazi than everyone else, but that doesn't mean that we had actually a winning record. That it was not a good metagame for anybody, because the Eldrazi deck was just ridiculously fast with their soul lands. It was just, yeah, basically 20 flavors of Eldrazi: red, green, Bant, well, I don't know about that. There were colorless, there was blue, red, there was Bant. There's no Eldrazi Tron yet, but for the most part, there were basically Counters Company. It was sort of there, but it wasn't in big numbers. It did not prove to beat the archetype. It had a combo finish that could beat it, but still the Eldrazi deck was just way too powerful, way too strong. So maybe, do you know, now I'm talking about it, like Eldrazi really turned the metagame to garbage. And like basically nothing could compete. At least in the Hogak metagame, Hogak was clearly the best, but other people, you could play Izzet Phoenix, you could play Mono Red Prowess, you could do it. They were still around. Eldrazi Tron was still a deck. You know, Karn the Great Creator into Mycosynth Lattice, legit win condition at that time. So, yeah, okay. And then I would say Merfolk didn't do that well in that metagame, but no, but we did better than everyone else, but still we couldn't beat. Really, I would not say I would only have a winning record in that era based on how well I was doing against all the other decks that I was playing against, not exactly against the Eldrazi decks itself. And then Oko was just a metagame. I had nothing wrong. I had no problem with that Oko metagame. It was super diverse. There's still 20 decks. They're all playing Oko, but it was still like, it was a diverse metagame. There was a lot of game to be played. If you were tired of, I mean, I can totally understand if you're really tired about the pattern of Oko being played, and they get the food token, then they make an elk, then they elk your thing that's trying to attack Oko. That can get very tiring, but it was very strategic. It was, and it was a lot more complicated than it looks. The Oko versus Oko mirror was not exactly simple. It took a lot of strategy to beat the other player. You know, randomly you might have to go -5 in some scenarios, or you just keep ticking up your Oko to make sure it's completely out of range of dying to the opposing Oko. So it was totally a metagame. Now Merfolk did the best in this metagame because it was a metagame of blue everywhere. Not only that, Oko could defend itself from a lot of things, but it could not defend itself from lords very well. Because all you need is like 2 random creatures. You need 2 random Merfolk on the battlefield. You slam Lord of Atlantis. It's going to have Island Walk because the Oko deck is playing with blue islands, and you just attack the Oko to death in one shot. So Oko comes on the battlefield, ticks up to 5 loyalty, no problem. 1 Island Walk Lord, I have at least 5 power. If I had a Benthic Biomancer and a Silvergill Adept, 5 power going at Oko dies. So we would win the Oko mirrors. So it was I think that was a very, very good metagame for Merfolk at that time. Now to answer that question, to this last point, did Modern ever get worse than that? maybe the closest other era was the Treasure Cruise era. There ended up being like 3 decks: Birthing Pod, Blue-Red Delver, and Burn. That was it. Those were the 3 archetypes. And actually, for a little while, it was just Burn and Delver until Birthing Pod discovered that they could play Siege Rhino in their deck. Here, maybe I can get. So until the pod decks realized that they could play this and crush Burn, crush Delver, they were losing miserably. So I think what ended up happening is in one GP, somebody ended up going really deep with pod with 3 Siege Rhino in their deck, like a lot. So that they don't need to just pod it out. They can also just hard cast it on turn 3. And it was a really big deal against all those archetypes. So that was another era where Modern turned to hell. Delver was utilizing Treasure Cruise. And the Delver deck, one thing was that both Delver and Burn were playing Treasure Cruise, and both those archetypes were pretty cheap. So if the deck was super powerful and the deck was really affordable, then they, like, almost everyone gravitated to it. So that was another era where there was very few archetypes. And Merfolk did great. Merfolk did very well. That was a very good time for Chalice of the Void. And if you bought Chalice back then, it was like $10. It was very cheap. It was very affordable. And it just destroyed this metagame because it was just mostly 1-mana spells. Not pod, but like 2/3 of the metagame were super soft to Chalice of the Void. So this was an era. That was an era where I thought I had like a super high win percentage, but then, like, honestly, I think I might have had an even higher win percentage during the Oko metagame. I was murdering everyone left, right, and center during the Oko metagame. So that was another era where I don't know where I would position that, though. Probably under Eldrazi. So it's like Eldrazi Winter, Oko Summer, the Treasure Cruise. I don't know, Treasure Cruise era, and then lastly Oko Fall. Anyone want to do a betting pool on which breakfast cereal mascot will be featured first in a secret lair? Hopefully Captain Crunch. Imagine Captain Crunch. I can imagine Captain Crunch being... Let's get Captain Crunch up here. I could totally see the captain being a magic card. Aye, aye, Captain. What would he have? He might be, I guess, hold on, how many colors is it? We got black, red, green, blue, white. He'd be 5 color. 5 color, I have no idea what he'd do. I have no idea what the captain would do. Or maybe to make it more castable, he could be like a hybrid of 2 colors, a hybrid of another 2 colors, and then 1 white or something like that. The captain. Oh, and Lord Magicus actually agrees. Captain Crunch looks like he looks like he could make a magic card too. Of course, just make humans more powerful. Unless the captain of Captain Crunch is some bizarre creature type that we don't know about. Good morning, Grim Ducky. Did Prowess take a hit from some deck rising, or did they evolve into Rakdos Shadow? They've definitely evolved to some degree to Rakdos Shadow. Those 2 archetypes are really blurred. It's like it's a Prowess deck, but with Shadow in it, basically. It's really blurred. But the other Prowess decks still exist. Like M. Hayashi still winning big time with Mono Red Prowess. And also Izzet Prowess is still out there. I just don't know if Rakdos Prowess exists out there anymore, now that they have the option of playing with Death Shadow and the new Scourge of the Skyclaves. Could Peter Pan of Crowns come back to Modern? It's possible. Will Bishop be banned in chess? Not in a long shot. Some chance for the Queen to get banned in chess, but Bishop is not OP at all. Are tribal decks that run Cavern of Souls supposed to run Chalice in the sideboard? No, not necessarily at all. You don't have. You don't have to. Some decks. Well, I would say like clunkier decks like Merfolk that aren't resistant to a fast combo deck or a fast aggro deck should consider running Chalice of the Void. Whereas a deck like Humans, they can run Chalice of the Void, but they don't need to. They've got a lot of tools at their disposal between Kitesail Freebooter, Thalia Guardian of Thraben, Meddling Mage, that can lock down the opponent anyway without Chalice of the Void. Like that Modern has the instance Bolt, Path, and Leak, unlike Pioneer. Well, that's the thing. So that they're trying to differentiate the power level between the formats. I mean, you got like, what is it? I can't remember what it is. They've got they have the mana leak for 2 mana in Pioneer. They've got Wild Slash for 2 damage, and they have I don't know that they have what's the Flash enchantment? I would consider that their Path to Exile. 2 mana, Flash, ETB, exile target attacking creature. That's basically their Path to Exile. So you want to play in the more powerful format, you got to come over to Modern. Forgot Companion Summer. That was a 1 in 50 years catastrophe. Well, but it was still a pretty diverse metagame. Like you might not like the companions, but it was still a very diverse metagame at the time. So it's not like the metagame converged to nothing. What are some Simic or red sideboard cards to beat Humans? Some Simic to beat Humans. Red sideboard card. Like, okay, well, just for red, I mean, kill their creatures. Humans does nothing if they have no creatures in play. So I was in a game with Day 2 Dryden, and I watched him play Humans before, and he said it was a bad, or like he gave me the impression that he thought it was a bad matchup. And I don't know what the matchup is like, honestly. But the times I played with him, he beat Humans, and the games where he beat Humans was when he was killing the creatures, not burning his opponent's face. Because if you keep the creatures under control, then the deck doesn't do anything. Like most creature-based decks. If the creatures, they're dead, then you're not taking any damage. You don't have to worry about it. And so there was a situation on turn 1 where he was going to play... He had a choice between Rift Bolt or Lava Spike. So he had a choice between Rift Bolt, which was the suspend card, and then there was Lava Spike. We're talking turn 1. I think we might have been post-board because we knew we were up against Humans. Does 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. And he was leaning on Rift Bolt because he wanted to get it underneath Meddling Mage, because if our opponent played Meddling Mage, name Rift Bolt, then it's dead. And I said on turn 1, he should play Lava Spike, because this cannot target the Humans. It doesn't hit the Humans. This one can. You can hard cast it for 3 mana if you have to, but you can point it at a Mantis Rider. And I tried to explain, the plan, like as far as I'm concerned from watching him play, the games he wins, it's when he kills the Humans. So you should not wait. You shouldn't waste this card on the opponent's face. You should waste this card in the opponent's face because it has no other direction, and it's the only thing. That's all you really want to be doing on turn 1. And we ended up winning this game because the Rift Bolt was just enough damage to kill the Humans. So I mean, so when it comes to like red sideboard cards to beat Humans, just kill them. I mean, red has a million spells to beat Humans. I don't think it's anything special. But for Simic, okay, does anyone have any good Simic suggestions? Yeah, but that's not these are not like specific Simic or red cards when you say Ensnaring Bridge. Oh yeah, Prowess plays that Flame Slash card. Kills a lot of stuff. 1 mana Flame Slash. Still sees play in Modern. The 1 mana get an ape. Dismember is like so against Humans because the damage is really relevant. Neobrand is, well, Neobrand loses. So hold on, let me finish up this other conversation. But where was it? So for Simic, I can't. I don't think there's any particular spell in the Simic colors. Like if you, I can give you like an artifact to crush humans if you want. What's it called? Torpor Orb. This will kill humans. Any deck can play this. Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. That just kills the deck instantly. Deck will do nothing. They will literally depend on Mantis Rider after that. After that, their deck is just 1/1s and Grizzly Bears. And they can't beat this card. Because everything comes into play with an ETB trigger, and it will never happen because Torpor Orb says no, cannot do it. Now to address this question on broken decks, with all these broken decks being mentioned like Hogak, I'm surprised Neobrand gets to go under the ban radar. It's so unhealthy for Modern. I think it's unhealthy for Modern, but to be blunt, the deck sucks. The deck is bad. It's just a bad deck. It's like well under 1% or 0%, whatever percent. There was one tournament where a bunch of Neobrand players joined and they did not get anywhere. They were just stopped cold. There's just too many answers. They can't beat Force of Negation very well. Even with Veil of Summer, it's not going anywhere. It's just a bad deck. It's unfortunately it's just a bad deck. Like the only way Neobrand will get any room, and maybe I'm starting to wonder, are the mathematical calculations by the Neobrand players flawed and wrong? Because they give these calculations that the deck wins on turn 2 and turn 3 some X percentage of the time. But is it actually winning on that turn, or is it that they get a Grizzlebrand in play and they still have to go through the motions in order to win? Because I don't know. I've been through countless Neobrand games. They have a Grizzlebrand in play, but they haven't won yet because they didn't draw anything that gains them life. I can still interact with the Grizzlebrand even after it has resolved. Or even, and then if they don't win on the spot and they have to pass the turn, that gives me another turn to untap and deal with the Grizzlebrand. So I mean, I'm getting this impression that the win percentage, or the how do I put it, the fail rate, or not fail rate, but the win rate or the rate that it combos off is incorrectly calculated. It's grossly overrated or something. But anyway, I don't think this deck is actually doing that well, and that's why it keeps going under the radar, because it's not winning. It's not making top 8s on any regular basis. It doesn't win tournaments. It's not like Hogak, where when Hogak was winning, it had 6 copies in the top 8 or 5 copies in the top 8, or it would have at least 50% of the top 8s every single tournament. And Neobrand can't replicate that at all. People are stubborn enough not to play Needle Spyglass to beat decks like Neoform. Huh? Well, I mean, like, these are good cards against them, but I think there's a lot of other cards that are also very... I mean, they have to beat Grafdigger's Cage. They need to beat... what else do they need to beat? There's like a card, you can't play more than 1 spell each turn. They have to beat counter spells. There's a lot of stuff that they have to beat. They can't beat, like, sometimes Chalice on 0. They can't beat that. Yeah, Deafening Silence, it's possible. Ashiok. Like, the answers are in Modern. The Modern has all the answers. There's like there's an infinite number of answers. And again, I'm just coming to this realization just a few days ago that these claims that Neobrand combos off and wins on turn 3 might be exaggerated. It might be because, like, how can you claim that you snap win on that turn when I know that after they combo off, they fail to actually win the game pretty often, like a good chunk of the time, and they may not be putting that in their calculation. So anyway, I'm just, to the Neobrand community, are you considering the fact that after you've comboed off, that your opponent can A, still interact with you, and B, you can still fail to win the game at that point? Are you considering those things? Captain Crunch is clearly a human pirate. Is things getting banned in chess? Not very often. Not very often. When was the last time something got banned in chess? Last time there was a rules change was like 170 years ago, but that's when they made the queen an en passant. The queen used to really suck. It was a really bad piece. Basically, they upgraded it with the new patch, and basically they just let it ride since then. Can't think of anything that has been removed from chess for a long time. Well, okay, actually, in some tournaments they ban draws. They have rules stating like when you're allowed to draw. And in some cases, some openings are banned because some openings clearly lead to a draw. So, I mean, under some circumstances, things can be banned, but in general, no. Human slivers and other tribal decks with basically tribal mana can either play their tribe or a few other creatures or artifacts. Yes. Pioneer does not have mana leak. Seal Away, that was the Pioneer Path to Exile I was thinking about. God, everyone's on it. You're all more smarty pants than I am. Oko would be balanced if it started at 2 loyalty. The food token is a +1, the elk is a -1, and the ultimate is a -6. I think it would have been fine if it started at 3 loyalty and just had the +1 -1. That probably would be enough. There were so many situations, like if it started at there's so many situations where I know you're trying to put it in bolt range, but I don't even think that's necessary. It's just that going to 5 is just a little too much. Just a little too hard to kill. For example, if the Oko wanted to defend itself by going -1 on an artifact, if it started at 3 loyalty, it would still be in bolt range. Damn, I remember now how Saffron Olive was sure Yorion was modern playable, and Krim thought it was unplayable during MTG Goldfish Ikoria review. What has happened to Yorion? Where is Yorion? Is it the fact that you go, I guess, or the Uro decks? I guess it's not good in an Uro deck, because that would have to be the thing. I always thought Yorion would still be around even after the companion change. That's a prediction I think a lot of people got wrong. I definitely got that wrong. Is there illegal strategies in chess? Well, I mean, you can make illegal moves. What do you mean by illegal strategy? Well, I mean, like, it is a common strategy amongst very strong players to play into an opening that they know is going to get a draw. It is like playing out a game to an ID somehow. Like, instead of... there's a lot of rules that say you can't ID at the beginning of a game in chess. Like some tournaments will have that rule to prevent draws. They want people to play if they invited them. So they say, okay, you have to at least play a game, but then there'll be some people like, okay, you force us to play the game, but we will just play into an opening that goes directly into a draw, and we both know it and we both want the draw because it will help us with our placing and standing in the tournament. And we get better prizes. So it's just like an artificial way of making a draw. So there have been events that ban certain openings because they know that it goes into a draw. People are trying to game the rules, basically. You mentioned in your YouTube days that you wanted MTG text like chess has. What are some topics you think would be good for such a treatise? Huh? Treatise? Whatever. I know what you're talking about. Like books on tempo, books on mana advantage, books on hidden information, or like these are the topics. Like you can talk about deck advantage, you can talk about card advantage, you can talk about card quality, you can talk about like virtual card advantage. You can talk about like there's so many topics about Magic that are not. You can talk about ramp. You can talk you have to break down these topics and explain why they're good, why they're bad. You can dissect combo, I'm sure, in a million different ways. how to play when you're down on cards, how to play when you how do you approach a game when you're down on cards because you've mulliganed a lot? How do you approach a matchup when you're up on cards? You know, there's a lot of topics that are just not really. There's tons of stuff that's not even talked about. And I was supposed to make videos on this before the end of the year, and I have not got around to do it. So there's so like stuff like this, you know. Did you ever think that you should be thinking differently when you're down on cards versus when you're up on cards? Because after all, if you take too long with the game and you let your opponent get the mana to cast all their cards, then you'll probably lose because they will play everything in their hand and you'll end up being like, let's say you mulligan a 5 and your opponent had a starting hand of 7 cards. And let's say you're on the play, it's 5 card hand versus an 8 card hand because they're going to draw a card for the turn. And if the game goes on too long, you're probably going to just get crushed under card advantage because you were down too many cards. So you have to consider winning the game faster than they can play everything in their hand. And tempo becomes really, really important under those situations. Whereas if you're up on cards, you actually want to drag the game out into the long game as quickly as possible. Do everything you can to preserve your life, because in the long run, your card advantage is going to beat the person who has less cards in their hand. Stuff like that. Anyway, so those are like topics I think should be written about, and they're not, or at least they should be discussed in some manner. But I'm not a writer, so I don't like to write stuff. The winning move is to not try to print an Oko in the first place. You can get a cheap chessboard for like 20 bucks and play for life. A Magic deck, however, well, you all know what Magic costs. Yes, chess is significantly cheaper in that regards. I mean, sure, Modern has a lot of answers to things, but people are fine with playing their old burn deck and don't want to change anything. This mindset on the competitive side of the game is so unhealthy. Yeah, well, I will say this. I am in the minority. Like, when I look at Modern as a whole, I am deeply in the minority that is willing to change things up constantly. And maybe it's because as a Merfolk player, I have to. But for the most part, at the very least, you can accommodate the community by making the change a lot slower than it already is. Like, people, it is a thing where if you have to constantly update your deck, and we're not talking about burn. Burn, for the most part, is like very similar from like all the time. They don't change their deck a whole lot. The biggest change recently was Skewer the Critics. But, you know, there are other archetypes. Take Jund, for example. Oh, I bought all these Lilianas and Dark Confidants, but now Wrenn and 6 is now the next best thing. Oh, splashing blue and playing Oko is the next big thing. And you can and if you do this set to set to set, you can very easily financially burn out trying to update your particular like black-green X deck to the most optimal version in Modern. And the same can be said about a lot of other decks. I mean, there's a lot of people who only have a budget of like, let's say your budget for Modern is literally $600. You spend $600. Can you afford every 3 months to upgrade, $150 worth of cards to your deck? Some people can, some people can't. I mean, when Modern Horizons came out, now, like, I can hear the hurt from the Merfolk community. We can't afford Force of Negation. We can't afford Chalice of the Void. Can't afford like Waterlogged Groves or Brazen Bar, where it's like some of these upgrades are very, very big and they're very expensive. And they had a budget for only so much of the Merfolk deck, and now this is a very big upgrade. Fortunately for the Merfolk community, like, we're still not changing a whole lot. I think the two most expensive upgrades is like Force of Negation and Brazen Bar, where Chalice of the Void is just something hopefully you bought a long time ago and still have it in your toolbox. But I can feel it for all the other decks, like upgrading constantly. It doesn't sit well with everybody. It doesn't sit well with everyone. Not everyone has the super extensive toolbox to grab stuff from. Don't know what this is in response to. Not illegal, but there's a 50 move rule and a 3-fold repetition rule that says if you do certain things to try to stall a game, it automatically ends in a draw. Yeah, there's no stalling in chess. Or there is some, it's legal stalling, but let's say you're completely lost, but you have 1 minute on your clock and your opponent has 2 seconds left. You can keep playing until they run out of time, and the obligation is on the opponent to win the game. may sound scummy, but for them to get the winning position, obviously they had to spend more time than you, and time is a huge factor in chess. That's why when I'm playing online on Magic the Gathering Online, if I'm totally lost but my opponent has 30 seconds left on their clock, I will still play the game out, because they might have only achieved the winning position that they have because they spent the time to get there, but they have to use time as a resource like anything else, like all the other resources that we have in the Magic game. And if they cannot actually close out the victory with that last 30 seconds left, then they shouldn't have spent so much time on earlier decisions. And if they spent less time on earlier decisions, they might not have had the winning position that they had in the first place. So I know there's some people who feel differently about that, because if it was a paper Magic game, there would be no chess clock, but there is a chess clock, and for good reason, online. Have you heard about the Remy MTG parody channel? He does great skits about our game. Can you play one of them on stream? I don't want to play one of his on stream because I'll get copyright stricken immediately by Remy. It can just well, not always, but generally it can automatically detect if you took some. Well, maybe it would not, so long as I'm talking at the same time. Anyway, I'm totally familiar with Remy. We talked a lot about him yesterday, actually, because we were talking about how and I could repeat it in this video, a lot of people who want to become content creators are sometimes discouraged because they think that the content creation space in Magic is saturated. And in my opinion, content creation is not saturated. Ideas are saturated. And Remy is a great example of finding space in the MTG community that no one is touching right now. No one's making these music videos on Magic and doing them in a comical fashion. So in that sense, in one way you could say, oh, there's no room to make another YouTube video, but then you got someone who's making music videos and no one else is doing it. So it's not that the MTG space is saturated in content creation. It's certain ideas are saturated, and this is an idea that obviously has no competition, so he's doing very well with it. Do you know that Eminent Domain deck? And thoughts if you do? I have no idea. MTG is definitely not saturated. There you go. Agreed. I'm just wondering how things get banned when everybody has the same. What do you mean, Niels Nielsen? I give you a few seconds to clarify yourself. I'm wondering how things get banned when everybody have the same. Oh, in chess. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess things don't. I guess certain game actions can be banned from a particular tournament. But like the rules and the pieces, they don't get banned. Although Vladimir Kramnik is trying to get castling banned. And not exactly banned, but he's like trying to he made a pretty good case that castling the king stifles creativity and can completely change the look and feel and strategy of chess if you ban the castling of king, banning of castling the king. So and if anyone doesn't know what castling is, because the king sits in the middle and the rook sits on the side, and you can for anyone who doesn't play chess, you can basically swap them so that the rook is closer to the middle and the king is tucked away in the corner. And well, basically that is that he's proposing that if we ban that ability, that it will completely change the game. So some certain rules are under attack. Who invented chess? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Over 1,000 years old this game is. Let's see if League of Legends can compete with that. Yeah, castling OP. I would love a YouTube channel dedicated to modern history and strategy and archetypes in a sort of documentaristic way. I think some channels have tried stuff like that, but I can't throw any your way at this moment. All right, I'm running out of time, but we do have some time for Decklist review. Very little time. Well, very quickly, just shout out my sponsors: Manabase.com, your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. Mana Traders, premier place to rent Magic cards online. You can support the channel with my Mana Traders link in the description below. You can use my coupon code Nikachu, 15% off your first 3 months. And let's put the banner here again, and let's start reviewing immediately. Because I have a statistics quiz coming up in like 15 minutes. I got my cheat sheets. I am not prepared for this at all. Thank God it's not worth any marks, but I'm getting terrified of the midterm coming up. It's going to fucking crush me. Just crush me. And actually, one thing that TuxDev is making here, League of Legends or Overwatch or the other super esports games, if you're not a pro, you're not relevant to watch. So that's not true in or what's this point earlier? Like, if you start a stream in MTG, you can easily still be in the first page in the MTG Twitch directory. So this is very true. In essence, there are... Whereas these other games, you literally have like 1,000 people streaming them, and you just have no chance of being seen. It's not going to happen. Or at least there is some chance of you being seen, even if you just randomly start out with nothing. However, it's still better off to make a YouTube channel these days and get popular there, and then make the Twitch channel. All right. We're going to blitz some of these. Tempo Mage's Decklist has been chosen. Congratulations, Tempo Mage. You lucky devil. You are the next contestant on Captain Crunch. Crunching the numbers of your deck list. One Mind Fairies Pauper. All right, Pauper community, listen up, listen loud. This is your time to give feedback because I have no idea what's going on in Pauper. Fairy Miscreant, the best one drop. Scry. No, this is not the best. This is, you know what? This is the best one drop. I love copying this thing and drawing cards. This one scries though, so it's probably better, but I don't like it because I love drawing cards more. Ingenious Thief. This is a fairy. Is this a fairy or a thief? When Ingenious Thief comes into play, look at top. Target player's hand. Fuck, that is awesome. I love that. Why can't they give me this for Merfolk for 1 mana? I love that ability. Spellstarter. This is not a fairy, that's for sure. Spellstarter Sprite. We all know it. Spellstarter Mistblade Shinobi. So something with ninjutsu deals combat damage to a player. You may return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. That is ridiculous. That is busted. Moonblade Shinobi deals damage to a player. Create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. I feel like this card sucks. This one draws cards. Love it. Love drawing cards. Brainstorm, Ponder, Counterspell, Lofty Denial, Snap, One of Mind. By the way, Snap, free bounce spell, return target creature to its owner's hand, untap 2 lands. One of Mind, the spell costs 2 less if you control a human creature. Snap is actually might be a card that might show up in Modern Horizons. I feel like that's a card that could show up in Modern Horizons too. One of Mind, the spell costs 2 less to cast. If you control a human creature and a non-human, you can draw 2 cards. So if you have the Ingenious Thief, or you have all these humans, actually. Interesting card. Island, Tormod's Crypt, Annul, Sea Sprite, Flying Protection from Red. Okay, Spreading Seas, Geist, and... Okay, everyone. What's your advice here? Because I have none. I don't really like this. Like, if someone... I mean, I guess this is power. Like, this is a way of closing out the game. Gush, you mean. Gush is banned in Pauper. And yes, is super banned. I guess this is like your only good clock, right? It's a 3/2 creature that adds power to the battlefield. So I can get that. Because you actually don't have any way of... You don't have any good way of closing out the game. I will say this. I like this effect, but I don't see this in Pauper. Is this really a Pauper thing? They didn't ban all the free stuff. Some free stuff still remains. Mistblade, yeah, Mistblade, Moonblade, and all the humans enable One of Mind. I get it. Thief is definitely human. Do you need this many though to acquire one of mine off? Snap technically still costs mana. All right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I don't have any good feedback because I don't play this format. The only thing I could say is that this, as much as I think this ability is cool, This probably still doesn't belong in the deck, and maybe you want to have more of these cards. Like another Mistblade Shinobi and another Moonblade Shinobi. Particularly Moonblade, because again, you have... I mean, I know you're a tempo deck, you're a pretty hardcore tempo deck, but you still don't have a great way of... By the way, what's with the Brainstorm over Ponder? Because you don't have any shuffle effects. Like, I thought that when you don't have shuffle effects, like, Ponder is just superior. Do you have some way of shuffling the deck? I don't know. I mean, you can scry some stuff away, but you can do the same thing with Ponder. Preordain's the best. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about preordain. There we go. We got some feedback. Brainstorm is awesome if you can put garbage cards on top and then shuffle them away somehow, which you can do with Evolving Wilds in Pauper, but you don't even want Evolving Wilds in this deck. So Brainstorm is not good. Brainstorm is not busted if you can't get rid of the garbage cards. So if Preordain... Is Preordain a common? I mean, I guess so. People are suggesting it. Ponder's not as good as Preordain without shuffles. Again, yeah, I get it. Totally get it. Play Portent. No, okay, so we figured it out. Let's replace the Brainstorms with Preordain for Pauper. And I would probably just shuffle 2 Ingenious Leaf into a Mistblade Shinobi or a Moonblade Shinobi. Hope that was valuable advice. Let's go crack another one. Deck review. Pick. Shadow Walker, congratulations. You're on Captain Crunch. The Captain Crunch show. We're crunching the numbers here. Red White Warriors. Red White Warriors and Zombies are the 2 most popular archetypes on this channel. Is this standard? Fervent Champion, Fireblade Charger, Kargan Intimidator. Choose one. Get the +1/+1. Cowards can't block warriors. Okay. Choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You have to pay 1. Gets +1/+1. Becomes coward until end of turn. Target warrior gains trample until end of turn. Target creature becomes a coward, so the stupid Omnath creature can't block the thing. Core Blade Master, Season Hollow Blade, Akiri Fearless Voyager, Skyclave Apparition, Nihiri Heir of Ancients. Create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment you control to it. Spikefield Hazard. Deals 1 damage to any target if a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead, but it's also a mana. Okay, that's cool. Shadow Spear, Relic Axe, Small of the Kind. I want... I'm not going to consider this a 1-drop. I'm going to consider this a 3-drop. I think this deck needs more 1-drops. This is... Well, I mean, I don't know how to approach the standard right now. Obviously, it's a standard that gains a lot... I think you have to race an Omnath before it comes out. Because it's going to be brutal. Like, they'll gain so much life and undermine a lot of what you're doing. I really like this card because you can turn Omnath into a coward and they can't block this thing this turn. Or else they can't block anything, right? Equip double strike, equip warriors you control, have double strike. I guess that's okay, but you don't have that many equipment. Or maybe you do. Maybe I'm wrong. You have a million equipment. I don't know what to take out. I don't have time. Play more 1-drops. Play a lot more 1-drops. If it dies, deals damage equal to its power to any target. Because you need, I think you need to go aggro, and I think you need to be really lean. I don't mind this card, but some of this top-end stuff I think has to go. Top 6 cards of your library. Like, I don't know if Nihiri is going to stand up to an Omnath very well. It's amazing turn 1, and really bad after. It's that bad, huh? I mean, because like your number 1 competition is basically Omnath. Like everything. Okay, so like it's all about Omnath. Are there really no other warriors? Okay, this warrior is good. This warrior is good. This one's awkward because you need that equipment. And of course, equipment is always usually pretty easy to undermine with removal. And it's a very small creature by itself. So you mean like when you top deck it, it's bad? Because the thing is, against a deck that's gaining so much life, I think you need to like beat their head in like really quickly. Because if you go to the, I don't know, how confident are you like winning an Omnath battle? Like how confident are you at doing that? If you go one-on-one versus Omnath, let's say an Omnath's on the battlefield, how good are you feeling about any of these cards in the late game? Is there anything that says they can't gain life? Well, Skyclaves is good. And Embercleave is good. See, things like Maul the Skyclaves and Embercleave I like a lot because it does basically what this card does anyway. But you don't need this creature. You want to turn the deck into historic? I would say just lean more on Embercleave and Maul the Skyclaves and less on Relic. And the thing is, Embercleave works better when you have bigger creatures to put this on. Stuff like this is fine. Stuff like this is fine. Stuff like this can be fine. Stuff like this is like debatable. This might be debatable because it's very small. So this card I think is good no matter what. Has first strike. This card is worse, I guess, later on in the game. Well, maybe pick one. Like, you have 23 creatures. Okay, I'll tell you what. With 23 creatures, I don't think you have enough creatures in this deck. You need to up your creature count. Like, fill this all up, and then pick 2 of these. Pick Maul the Skyclaves and Embercleave, or pick like you have to reduce some of these and just go all in on like you don't. Let's be serious. You don't have time to cast these cards and then equip them. Embercleave is the only one that passes because this one is technically free if you have enough creatures that you're attacking with, which I don't think you do. At 23 creatures, that's not many creatures. Like that's not a lot of creatures in a deck. I know when I play 23 creatures in Merfolk, that means on average I'm gonna have like 2 creatures in play. And I'm going to be starving to draw more, and then all you have to do is pick off one, and then Embercleave becomes really clunky, right? So I would say you choose, you figure out which of these 2 that you like, go all in on them, fill up the rest of the slots here. Maybe go 4 Skyclave, 4 Akira, 4 Fervent Champion, and then 2 more Fireblade Charger. And the more creatures you have, the more effective I think your the few equipment that you have. Like, oh, let's be serious. You just need about 1 of these, right? And if you have like 8 in your deck on average, you'll have one per game. I think. Wasn't there a version of this playing Sunforger and a bunch of spells for standard? I don't know about for standard. Anyway, that's my advice. Take it or leave it. Disclaimer: I don't play standard. I know what to do against life gain decks. That's for sure. So, okay, that's going to be it for Coffee and MTG. I got a test to go to. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to raid. Who are we raiding it today? I'm raiding... let's give you the Aspiring Spike. He's playing something. I don't know what he's playing. Sure, he'll enjoy all of you. Oh, yeah, I'm going to need it. I did terrible on my last test. I did terrible. I expect this test, I'm going to do terrible. But I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's a funsy test because I wasn't even given a grade for the last one. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.